Oh, I read WEEDsday, Rabbi.
Welcome to Weed Wednesdays, produced by International Broadcast Media, better known as IBM.TV. I'm your host, Jeff Eichen, human rights advocate and social activist fighting for government deregulation of weed and the release of all nonviolent criminals incarcerated for possession of marijuana, moving violations, parking tickets, IRS debt, etc. Here on WEEDsday, we keep the public informed about all things weed related, including festivals and legislation surrounding regulating the growth of hemp. Today, my guests are
There's something happening here.
Tommy Chong for Lifers. Madness.
There's something happening here.
There we go. So we made it through another week, everybody. We made it through another promo at the beginning of our show. We have some beautiful guests on today. Seems like I'm surrounded by the women of weed all the time, or that's kind of by design, because I'm a sweetheart and I just love my women in weed. You gals are perfect. And spreading the word and raising the vibration, it's us too movement, it's not all it's just about one life matters. Weed matters. We should have a t-shirt that says weed matters. Maybe I just made the new t-shirt, but thank you today, everybody. In fact, t-shirts, I'll show you the t-shirt that I'm wearing. I'm unbuttoning my vest here. So can you read that for us, somebody? There we go. Fuck opiates. And it says Michael Jackson and Prince were taken out. So the bottom line is that weed is a very good alternative for PTSD. They're finding receptors in the brain for this. The articulation that our team and our crew have from Israel to America, studying weed and everything, we're so articulate, we're so grounded. Weed does not make us stupid, does not give us a hangover. We don't throw up when we have too much weed, because marijuana is the gateway. Let me put myself big here. Marijuana is, there I am. The marijuana is the gateway to the munchies, So no one's ever really physically died from smoking pot. But I use a hemp wick instead of a butane lighter. So you light the wick and it burns cleanly. So just be careful with yourself. Get your longevity happening. So once you're out of jail, you can get incredible, fuel, energy in your body, so you can also live a long time and not wear yourself out with white man's tobacco. My friend just died, who was a really great magician. He was teaching flow and magic at the University of Las Vegas, and he was a smoker. And I said, stop smoking, your 2 cigarettes a day out in the garden. And he had 2 heart attacks, and they found him. He didn't wake up. So stop white man's tobacco, take your alcohol content down, and do more weed, or just be sober and be happy. Happy is also a good recipe. So today, before I get started, I have 2 things. I have a slideshow. You're going to love my slideshow. It's only about 1 minute and or 2 minutes. And then I'm going to read something that Miss Amy, my co-host, sent in Facebook this week. It says, read, exclamation point. So I'm sitting here in shock because I got this very brief message from Michael Peltier. My pusher died today. Corona, question mark. I know someone is being paid to push Michael around the compound in his wheelchair. So the pusher, we thought it was like his weed pusher. Well, maybe if Michael's weed. So I know someone is being paid to push Michael around the compound in his wheelchair. So it appears that the pusher passed from COVID-19. Michael Peltier tested positive, but did not suffer any symptoms yet. His pusher passed away. This virus is insanely complex, everybody. It's insanely complex, and no rhyme or reason. We all need to live as if this could be our last day, because it might. So we're coming for you, Michael, and all the other Michaels, and we love you all so much. Good day, weed whackers and cannabis 420 nurses. Our lineup today looks packed. We have another National Day of Freedom being organized. Michael Thompson, Michael Peltier, all the inmates, we want to bring them home. And many reform advocates are on our show today, and XPOWs. I mean, people that were actually in jail for pot, and they have lots to say and to share with you. So we don't let this happen again. So today's show is dedicated to ending prohibition. And I'm going to share my screen with you one more time, and then we'll get to Amy and we'll start the show. But I wanted to share with you my bounty. Here we go. We got right here. What do you think, everybody? So this is flowering stage of my plants and my beautiful photography. Haha, I'm just loving my old lens. That's the oldest lens I have. It's the most beautiful lens in my camera bag. And that's the status of my plants these days. And this is just one walk outside. I talk to my plants, I water them, I give them nutrients, and all my photography is on my Zenfolio site, everybody. You can find me, and you can get canvas wraps of these if you want, 8x10s, 16x20s, doesn't matter. I can promote whatever I want because it's my show. So I'm loving you up, everybody, sharing you with you the flowering stage here in Washington State. That's where we are right now. So change your nutrients, everybody. Learn more about the aspects of cannabis growing and flowering stages. And in Washington and Oregon, bring them inside when it starts raining so you don't get any mold. These are my sunflowers that I grew. And there's a sunflower. So it's really important to see your world, to step outside. Don't stay in your house all the time. But at the same token, honor the weed. We love you. And I'm going to unshare my screen and turn it over to Amy Pova.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you, as always. We really appreciate your wonderful platform. A couple of things I want to give some updates before we get started. And yes, we have a wonderful lineup with Jody Rose, who's the mother of Michael Chancellor, who served time for cannabis. He's home now, thank God, but his co-defendant, Donald Fugit, who we've had his mother on, Carla, Lunsford in the past, but want Jody to come on to talk about what it's like to have your child go to prison for cannabis. And Patricia Albright is one of my favorite people in the whole world. And I communicated with her while she was in Dublin, which is my alma mater, where we both served time. I was at FCI Dublin. She was at the camp and then later got transferred simply because she is a warrior who always raised her voice and always fought back when the staff of the BOP was doing things they shouldn't have been doing. And then, of course, we have Amberly and Damita. But I want to touch on what you read with regard to Michael Peltier. So we have his compassionate release in. He has a great court-appointed lawyer, Scott Hess. And so we found out that Michael tested positive. Didn't really mean to imply that he didn't have any symptoms, because he did. But what's so strange about the coronavirus is that I don't think anybody really understands the complexity of this virus. And I also don't really think we're being leveled with that much when they try to say that people for the most part don't die from COVID. They die from underlying other medical complications, because there's no rhyme or reason. Michael, for all practical purposes, he has diabetes now. He lost the use of his legs when he was 11 years old. He has declined in health, and yet he survived COVID. You can get it a second time, so we're continuing to fight for his compassionate release and his clemency. But the guy who was paid for by the institution there at Terre Haute to push him, they call those people a pusher, not drug pusher, but they pushed him around the compound, passed away apparently yesterday. So I was kind of shocked about that. So the so-called healthy person who pushes Michael around is no longer with us, and there Michael sits.
That could be how come he got it.
It could be. There's quite a few people who are getting it, and or vice versa.
Well, it's like a cruise ship. They're all locked up together. Why don't they just give everybody ankle bracelets that are nonviolent for the time being?
Well, that would certainly be an option. And Trish is going to talk to us about being on an ankle bracelet. Congratulations, she got off. But more importantly, Stephanie Landa, who is your other co-host, she had hip surgery and she's recovering. And I got a text from her that she said it went well, but that, with surgery comes pain. Of course, we all know cannabis helps with that, certainly better than opioids. But if everybody would please lift Stephanie Landa up in prayer and think about her and her recovery. We want her to heal fast. And she's just one of the best people in the world that I know. She puts money on the books of cannabis prisoners while they're inside. And then when they get out, tries to give everybody, I think, $500, which, who else is doing that? I mean, that's incredible. So if we're ready, would like to move into the show. And I defer to you, Jeff, but I'd like to have Trish come on. She has such an incredible story that is going to blow everybody's mind. And I'd just like to introduce her, if that's okay.
Sure.
Have her explain why she got 5 years and 5 months for cannabis oil, something that we know has incredible healing properties. So if you'll unmute yourself, Trish, or if somebody can unmute you, because we can't hear you.
You have to unmute yourself, Trish. There you go.
There you go. And you're now home, but that was a hard-fought battle. And I have to bow down to your incredible spirit while you were in, because you took some punches, some direct blows in the form of retaliation just for fighting back while you were in there. So please first start with how you got involved with cannabis oil and take us on your journey.
Well, just to correct something, the bust was not for cannabis oil. It was for growing. It was for growing 100 plants, which were legal in El Dorado County in California. We had legal grow 10 people in our collective, all with legal prescriptions. And El Dorado County Sheriff had been out to our collective. The fire marshal had been to our collective. They were all very happy with it. But I had 2 beautiful pieces of land, both 10 1/3 acres, both had water rights and mineral rights, and both had a creek that ran through them. And so we had riparian rights. They were just exquisite pieces of property that I was out getting. One in Nevada County had my home of 25 years and where I raised my children by myself, backed up to the Tahoe National Forest. And so it was an exquisite piece of property. And so was where the collective was in El Dorado. So they got both of those. So it wasn't oil, it was for cultivation. So, and manufacturing, which I've always thought was a strange word. How do you manufacture? It's a plant. But my son Trevor, my first child, was diagnosed at a very early age with bilateral retinoblastoma, which is eye cancer. Just very weird. There's no trace of it in his father or my eyes, no expired tumors. But he had one eye removed at age 1.5 and then another at age 4. And he kept going in and out of remission. And finally, he was out of remission for about 4 years, and we thought he was free. So I'd be pregnant with my second child because I didn't have another child until my first child was safe, thinking he was all right. He'd had both eyes removed, and he'd gone and everything, but was in really well. He was a genius. He was faster in Braille than the students read print, which I know is hard to believe, but he just was this crazy smart kid, really funny and naughty. And I treated him like a normal kid. I didn't treat him with kid gloves like most children that are catastrophically ill. They're become pretty ruined because parents are so afraid of everything. And I don't live that way, so I let him. He skied and he rode his cycle and swam and roller skated and did all kinds of crazy stuff. And so he became, the month I became pregnant in 1983 with my second child, Trevor had been in remission for 4 years, and he came out of remission in that same week that I found out I was pregnant. So he literally took 9 months to die, knowing that I was pregnant. I'm sure he waited around. He's an oncologist. He was in a tremendous amount of pain as he was diagnosed with bone cancer from radiation that I'd given him, which I did not know time. If I had known then what I knew now, young mother, single mother, age 23, and had given him radiation and chemotherapy and everything, because they said that was the only way to save his life, which, maybe it did, but, who's to play God, something like that. But he'd get bone cancer from that. And it was very, very painful bone cancer, like one of the most painful kinds of cancer, osteogenic sarcoma. And he, normally they amputate, but the bone cancer was also on the frontal, on his skull, which is where they first did the radiation on his eyes, and was pushing on the cortex of his brain. So the pain was unbelievable. And the morphine, which was 650 milligrams per hour, which anyone in the medical field, like, what, you can't do that. He was doing that, and it was just not even killing the pain, but it shut down his digestive tract, couldn't eat, couldn't go to the bathroom. And so his oncologist, an amazing woman, told me, you need to get pot. You need to give him marijuana butter, tinctures, and oil. And I'm like, I don't used to do that, but since that trip, I'm like, need to be really present and sober in ways when you have a child that's ill like that. So she said, well, I'll teach you. So, and anyway, and she taught me and gave it to him. And oh my God, an incredible turnaround. Made a beaver at me. And I always felt that was far superior to any kind of alcohol, any other. I had never seen it work so effectively and so quickly as a medicine. This kid went from a zombie in a trance, basically unable to move, begging for help, literally crying for help, and to laughing, eating, his bowels move. I'm sorry that sounds insensitive, but that's a big deal when you're just hot. So eating berries, cream, I even have a hamburger French from the Coke, which I never have to like because I always so careful. What do you wanted? And I knew he dying. So he died 17 days. He waited till Laura was born, and he died 17 days later. So, and he died peacefully, thanks to pot. And yes, he's still on morphine drip, but he had a catheter in the middle of his chest that went right into his bloodstream. But nothing. If there was someone was filming the difference of the two, and he was able to visitors, he was able to say goodbye. You know, I'm just start monitor here. I would have been with all the chemotherapy he had. Is always barfing his gout, and you know, pathetic and sad to see this little tiny guy throwing up. And I just didn't, you know, I just didn't know the medicinal properties like I learned and have expounded on that knowledge exponentially because it's just so incredible. I'm a trained hospice therapist, so I've seen it and used some vets, and you know, you're talking about PTSD, unbelievably powerful medicine. And yes, it can be a cocktail too, and much preferred alcohol affects the frontal lobe of your brain, which is where your reasoning is. So that's why people don't have a lot of reasoning when they're drinking. But marijuana does not do that. Marijuana is. That's why I'm sure they're trying to get illegal. You know, I mean, there's a huge push. They spend hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to keep it illegal, and I know why, because I've seen it with epileptic patients, cancer patients, AIDS patients, heart arthritis. I've used it on lots of people, and to tremendous and enormous difference in effect, and the effect is very, very quick.
Trish, how long after he died was it when you got that knock on your door? Unfortunately, we've only have so much time because we've got more people. So
sure.
We got plenty of time.
So I should have made it shorter. It was years. I mean, it didn't start growing until mid 2000s. So Trevor had been my other children were grown and gone. So it was a long time.
Yeah, help us segue from you
learning. When the age, it was not legal at all. So you know,
and you think that you think it had to do with the fact that your property, somebody wanted your property, and can you get into the story of, or whatever you're comfortable sharing with regard to how you?
Oh, fine. I did. There are two exquisite properties. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure someone of them is probably in my home right now. Also, I became too well known. I was kind of known as a medicine woman in county, and was able to give it away free, all the tinctures and oils and butters I made. As when you're a grower, you have so much, and my colas were, you know, donkey colas. I mean, they're enormous things, and I just knew how to grow. I'm a natural gardener, and I had lots extra. So, and I believe in sharing wealth. So, and also anyone that was ill, that became very well known. And even though I asked them not to share the information to anyone, all of a sudden I became too well known, and I became a threat to them. And then two plainclothes cops came to my collective up in the County and demanded a third of the crop. And they were really scary looking big dudes, and they looked like they were with the Aryan Brotherhood, which in fact we found later they were in, and but still cops, and that they'd been successfully extorting large percentages of crops all over El Dorado County. I had them investigated. So we said no, get the F.A.I.R property, and you know, anyway, 10 days later we were busted by the feds because they went to the El Dorado sheriff, and the El Dorado sheriff said, she's doing anything. So the feds came, and you know, 20 to the with just little leave there, and then 20 feds to 20-something feds to elected. So they went after my son and me. They went after my son, I'm sure, to manipulate me because they knew they knew Trish. My third child was another boy. So I'm going to mention his name because I have permission. It was really traumatic. This is here. He'd been existing the federal boot on that. I just got ankle monitor that I was on for a year out last Friday, and now I'm supposed to do 3 years probation unless I can hire an attorney, get sentence reduced. But it's literally 10 years on September 8th that we've been staying with shadow of lead thugs and thieves, which is what they are. They didn't our crop. They didn't our crop down. They took peak ripeness, and they get very carefully lit down in a big, huge trunk. There was no burning of a crop, so
Right.
I mean,
And you
they
got
got a lot out of us.
You got out under the First Step Act. You were released.
I did.
Step Act, the elderly release program.
That's right.
Okay.
I only because I fought for it, and because you and sharing your knowledge, you fought for me for clemency, and that happened. But the First Step Act, they were not interested in doing it. I was the first one of them to be released. They were not going to be. In fact, we're their paycheck. They have no interest in letting inmate go. They just say it to you. They're not going to be letting you go, and they'll do whatever they can. They will trick you into like I think you got us a shot for feeding the birds. Well, they put me to the higher security prison because I wrote a warden up and his warden who were diabolically evil and who were breaking laws all over the place. And within weeks, I was transferred over with some bogus made up rule. And if I fought it, she made it clear that if I fought it, she'd find a reason to put me in the shoe for the rest of my time there. And that of course would, once you're in the shoe, you didn't qualify for the First Step Act. So,
well, Trish, you are an example.
And it was not. You have to be an activist.
Trish, you are an example of why sweet pot prisoners should all come home. They don't understand being in there with rapers and hardened criminals, and it does knock you down. I just keep reiterating the line that Tommy told me in my movie that I wrote, that being in prison brought spirituality to him. That's how he made it through the day. And so I just have a tip for everybody. I'm not meditating anymore. I'm contemplating. So I go and I sit still every day and I contemplate, how good am I doing? How good are you doing? How are the people that I'm interacting with doing? You know, in the old days, we had gangs, and you bust me, I'm going to bust you. And Gandhi and Jesus wouldn't play that game. And we're not going religious here. We're just saying that we need the golden rule. And you are exemplifying the golden rule, that somebody like you, and for what you did and what you've survived with your children and your medicine, this should be made louder. We're going global thanks to IBM.TV. Thank you, IBM.TV, for allowing us to go to Portugal and to Uruguay and all other countries. We're going to Africa soon. And so, Tricia, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. And by the way, I brought spirituality to prison. It was the reverse for me. I taught yoga the whole time in there. I taught meditation, the rites, Cherokee dance of the four directions, and was an example of, hopefully it is an example of a graceful warrioress, because I didn't take any crap from anybody. I got my tooth knocked out when I was there. I allowed it to come at you. You know, there's a lot of violent people in there. If you don't capitulate to their will, in which I would never. So, you know, there you go. I did have some that were very supportive of me. I helped new people that came in. I gathered clothing and toiletries and stuff for people. And so I did have little ministry myself going on in there. So.
Good on you.
Introduced me to Connie.
It's a terrible place, Amy will say. Don't anyone let you think the camp or whatever. It's an absolute horrific place. And it's amazing to me that Amy's the 9 years. I spent 44 months. And for her to be as gentle and loving and graceful and gracious she is really a testament to her. I don't know that I could have done it more day. I was like, it's a really horrible place.
Well, Trish,
Congratulations,
we do have to
Amy.
do.
You survived it. I survived it well.
Well, thank you. You know, I say the
Yeah,
thing about
true.
people who have served 20 years. I don't know how they do it, and I'll never pretend like I understand what 20, 25 years. There's people
Whoa.
that we know in common, Michelle West and Jessica Antunes, who's there.
John Knock.
Elisa Castillo got out, but Ava Palma, and she's in there, Intencio, serving life. Let's move on to Jody. I'd like to introduce Jody, who's the daughter of the extraordinary, amazing Betty Herman Davis. I know Jody and Betty because the Guardian Angel program, they always were stepping up on Facebook, wanting to get involved during or even before the Obama Clemency Project 2014. And I can't say enough about this dynamic duo, meaning Betty and her daughter Jody and the entire family, that always brightens my day when I see posts from either one of them on Facebook. And Jody, if you'll unmute yourself, I'd like for you to share, because you have your finger in a lot of different activism areas and do so much even within your own community. But more importantly, you're the mother of somebody who was busted for cannabis. And I know a mother's heart suffers tremendously every day that their child or loved one is in prison. So please share with us and also what you're doing now.
Okay, well, as Amy said, actually, I don't even know if she realizes it. She's the one who got me started.
Introduce yourself. Introduce yourself.
Oh, I thought it was. Okay, here we go. Is it unmuted now?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, but introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Jody. Actually, Jody Calkins. I am Jody Rose on Facebook. And my son went in 2013. And when he went in, as a mother, and my heart goes out to wives and all the others too, but as a mother, when your child goes into prison, I was always able to help him through anything. Well, then, you feel so helpless. And when he told me after, it took several days after he got arrested to even know what's going on. And he finally, 4 or 5 days later, he said, I'm in here. And I said, what, he said, I'm looking at 25 to life. I said, what did you do? Did you kill someone? 25 to life. He said, no, that's just, what they're saying right now. He said, Mom, it's, it's all marijuana. And I said, how could you be looking at 25 to life for an all marijuana? So several days later, we had that first, and the thing that really sticks out to me the most is in court, the first court, I'm there as the mother. I'm not there thinking I'm going to be put on the stand. I'm not there thinking that I have to speak or, and I get put on the stand by the prosecuting attorney. I'm called out, and I remember shaking so bad. I don't even know how to describe it.
Jody, is that legal? Can they just flip that and not tell you that you're going to go on?
You know what I learned in the 6 years that my son, the feds can do anything. Now, state, no, but the feds make the laws. They can do anything. Our hands are tied when it comes to when our loved ones are in federal prison. They break so many of their own laws, but they're the feds. They do. And we experience that. But they put me on the stand and they start putting these pictures of 4 or 5 other things because, now we're in a conspiracy. That's why we're looking at so much time. It wasn't, and they're telling me that my son had went to Georgia and Florida. And I'm like, my son's never been. But then I find out later, as most of us know, they don't have to go there to be part of this conspiracy. The kingpins and the, can be in Georgia and Florida, and you're charged with all of that. So they're putting these pictures of, have you ever seen this person? Have you ever seen this person? These were the leaders, they call them the leaders of the conspiracy. And of course not. I haven't seen them. And then went to the extreme to ask me, because this was the hearing to say if he would get out until he goes to court or he would have to stay in pre-bond hearing in federal. And said, why would you want him to come home with your 2 younger children knowing that he is a criminal? And I'm on the, and they told us before, don't look at each other, don't make, eye contact with each other, anything. And then they went on to say, if you knew that your son smoked marijuana, because they asked me, did you know that your son? I said, well, yes. I don't want to lie on the, in case they ever, because they had so much on video. They had watched him for so long. I didn't know what they had. And I said, yes, I did. Then why did you not call the police and turn him in? And he was never at my house. I mean, he was there with a blunt, maybe out back, because we lived, in the country, and he would come with his friends. And I'm on the stand, and remember, I'm like shaking, because this isn't your normal courtroom. This is the gold seal, you have to wear dress, suits, and this is, and I was so scared, remember thinking, and they wanted, because I guess some of this not knowing took place, they say, because he would come to my house on the weekends. So they wanted to try to drag us into this. It was the most horrific experience ever. And it was all a marijuana related case. And thank God we had an amazing lawyer. He has passed away now, and he was able to get gun charges, or my son would be in prison for 25 to life. I mean, he would have, because the guns, there was like 5 guns, and the guns weren't even where they busted him. They were in the safe it's just unbelievable. 25 to life. His co-defendant, Donald Fugit, is still, I mean, here we are almost 8 years later, and all he was doing was run into the cleaners or run into Taco Bell, or, he wasn't even running any of the, and he.
Well, I think you should get life for going to Taco Bell.
I know. So, the experience, but that's where I came in. Like, I had to, you're in so much shock as a mother, thinking 25 to life, and they drug this out for 26 months. So you're thinking 20, you don't know. I mean, your lawyer's telling you, well, might be 20. I mean, at worst case, best case, it was going to be 15.
Well, we had 2 years of waiting with Glenn and Peggy, and they were sweethearts also. And it's just, it's a fear mongering technique that, we don't know if it was invented in Egypt with Cleopatra, or if it was invented in Germany with who. The bottom line is that we are exposing it. This is the time of exposure. We're watching all the swamp get swampier, and I think we're close to breaking through and getting some Gandhi back in our golden rules. So by you sharing your story so passionately and articulately, and you could say it again, I'm sure, tomorrow in the same manner and same articulation, including Trisha, you just had a brilliant delivery. That's what we need, and that's what Weed Wednesdays is all about. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we'll get back to you, Jody, because I have a few more questions, but let's bring Damita on, because she's been waiting and waiting in the wings, and would very much like to hear from you, Damita. If you'll unmute yourself and introduce yourself. Damita, yeah, there you go.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Thank you for your patience.
Oh, no problem. I was happy to actually be listening in, because I'm getting more information that I need for my organization. But how are you all doing today?
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Is Amberly on? I can't see her, but I was supposed to be coming on with Amberly. Okay.
She's here.
So we were coming on with Hey, Amberly. So me and Amberly, we do a lot of activist work together. We met working on a case out of Oklahoma, the Free Mark West Project. And I have an organization called F.A.I.R. It's called Fighting Against Institutionalized Railroading. And right now we're currently 87 cases strong across the country. We have all types of cases. We do have some who have been given life sentences for marijuana. So I was really glad that I was able to listen to some of you all's stories, because some of the states that gave them life sentences have the 3 strikes rule, but then they have laws that say if it's only a certain amount, they can't get more than 8 years, but yet they gave these people anywhere from life to 100 years. So I was happy to hear some of the things that you all said, so that I can research more and do things to try to help them as well.
And how long have you been in your organization?
I actually joined the organization last year, about this time last year, and I became the president in April.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
I was asking Amberly. We're having some blowback. Sorry, but why don't you come in and share how you two connected?
Yes, ma'am. Me and Damita were met through a mutual case that we are both working on, the Fremont Quest case.
Amberly, we're going to have to tech support you, Amberly. We love you so dearly. And so, no, you're too loud. You're somewhere in your
staticky.
Yeah, you can turn your microphone down on Zoom. You go into the Zoom microphone arrow pointed up, and then go in there and turn your microphone all the way down. Let's try you one more time. Otherwise, we'll just take your blessings today because we can't give bad TV. So try it again. Do you see that where it says mic? Turn that down under the little arrow where the little microphone is. Okay, give us another try, Amberly. There you go.
Is that better?
It is not better. So until we get you in a perfect sync, girlfriend, and Amberly, we are so blessed to have you. And yeah, just put thumbs up for yes and no answers. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Amberly, but we'll get you better. We'll get you better, and we'll have you on more. Amberly will become a co-host in training.
Well, let's go back to Jody for a minute because I wanted to bring Damita in. But Jody, I'd like for you to talk about some of your other activism endeavors and all the great work that you do. And I guess part of this was triggered by your own son going to prison. And of course, we're still fighting for his co-defendant Donald. But please share with us some of the other things that you're involved in.
I would honestly say all of this was when he went in, and those 2 years I was telling you about. Amy came along maybe 2 months after, and my mom found her, which that part. And actually, Amy, you're the one who, and I knew I had to get involved in something. I had gone through a lot of years of his dad being in and out of prison, but I never really got in active. I never really. I got degrees in criminal justice and I was interested in it, but I never really got involved in advocating for. And then once we met you and then we saw what you were doing, and then you started the Guardian Angels and kind of got me on board with that. And that's what really sparked me to go, wow, because I had to dig into laws now. I have criminal justice degrees, actually I have 2, but they're state. We never really talked about federal law. You could go to prison for life for marijuana, so being, helping Amy, I wanted to do my best because that's just how I am. And so I did my research, and that's when I said, I cannot sit back anymore. So I started a Facebook group just wanting encouragement of other mothers and just help each other. And now we have 54 pages. We have state pages. I didn't want it to be that way. I wasn't looking for followers. But people needed it. And so we have admins for the pages. We have about 50,000 followers across all 54 pages. And again, it wasn't about that. It was just that we have such a need. We have such a need for people fighting. And so we do everything. I really started focusing on federal laws and when this all started and, the history of it. And so that was really where I went. And then but now we have, people who help with whatever it is, that teach people. Sometimes all you have to do is, Amy taught me this, just make phone calls, send emails. We saw people coming out. I think 3 I had that already 2 of them were doing life one of them was doing life and the other 2, but they're out now. And it was just that Amy showed us. And I know that there was, a whole group of people, but she really showed us that you just got to do this. You have to do this in a proper order. Here's your resources. I'm swamped. Either you do it or you don't. It wasn't like, and I was one of those. So, and it just grew. And the only reason it grew is because I stayed passionate about it. I stayed focused on it. And I am truly, it is my heart. I mean, I'm only off 1 day this week. I'm a substitute and I have 2 shows today. And I said, I will spend my whole entire day behind this because that's what it takes. I've seen that all we have to do really is be a voice. Amy called them thunderclaps. And I'll throw that out there now. If we can do a thunderclap on this situation, I've seen almost mountains move just by people speaking up. I mean, I really have. Things that you would never think you can get done just because 200 people called that unit that day and flogged those phones and drove those wardens crazy. And, you know, people will say, well, aren't you worried about retaliation? I said, I think the treatment that they're getting is way worse than any retaliation. We can't let them, you know, if they're not being given their medication, we can't just go, well, we're worried about retaliation. Okay, they're going to sit in the hole, but they're going to have their medication because these are all we have to do. And so people are so scared of the, you know, and I understand why, but they're so scared to speak up. And there's so much extortion going on. There's so much, and I'm not scared to speak up. You know, if they come and get me for speaking up, then I'll do like my son and we'll get a good attorney. And because I'm not going to be silenced. I'm not. And so
if you're stuck in the dark, on the dark side, and your hobby is to beat up and to be a bully on the planet your whole life, then you go away from the golden rule. So by you speaking up and being articulate and telling us that you clog the phones, that's how I get into prisons to film. When I do a film project or I want to go film a prisoner, they say, you'll never get into federal, Jeffrey. Well, I'm close, you know, and I just keep doing all my channels, and then I bring a crew in there and I'm compliant with my equipment. But it does take for when Amy posts on Facebook, everybody, and around the world too, just know that your voice is heard, and people do not turn away from the truth. The truth is way more powerful than the lies and the deceit. Because when I was a kid, I told my dad, somebody knows. And just like coronavirus or cancer or JFK, you know, the grassy knoll, my dad said, what do you mean somebody knows? And I said, well, somebody knows who killed JFK, the guy who did it. So,
well,
yeah.
I would like to, you know, Jody, I'd like to put a name to it because Jody was always volunteering to help more and more people and be their guardian angel, in addition to all the work she did, you know, as a mother of someone who was incarcerated. But Denise Quintanilla is home. She received clemency from President Obama in great part, I feel, because of Jody's activism and us pushing her name out there and putting her on posters, standing in front of the White House. Jody came to the White House with her family and we did a vigil. I love you for that. You know, not everybody can do that. And you showed up and we all stood out there with posters. Of course, we then use that on social media like crazy because so often when you do an action, a lot of people feel like, well, what's that going to do? And it's like, well, it's like anything. It's exposure. And then I noticed that other people then wanted to start doing vigils in front of the White House and, you know, doing Skype videos and stuff like that. But then also Cheryl Howard was serving life, who Jody was a guardian angel for. And I just connected Cheryl with a lady in DC who wanted to interview clemency recipients, Jody. I don't know if you know that. And it's for a local DC show. And I don't know who the other person was that you were a guardian angel for, but it's proof that activism does work, because the people that we kept pushing out on social media with change.org petitions, asking people to sign them, what would happen, including with Trish and the pot people, because again, there's always naysayers that'll say, well, what does this change.org petition do? Does that actually get them home? And it's like, everything is a mosaic. And no, I don't think a change.org petition is going to be the thing that the president sees and he's just going to release somebody because of a change.org petition. It's a form of advocacy. And people would read these stories and I would see where other people, younger people, would say, I never believed anybody was really serving time or a long time in prison for cannabis, but I saw this story on change.org and then they're talking about it. So it's a way to get everybody involved and start talking and bust open the myth that yes, there are people in prison for cannabis and you need to share this. So activism does work. It really does. And I can't thank Jody and Betty and all the guardian angels. Maureen Grisey is our director of the Guardian Angel program, and there's Ronnie in Austin who advocates for a lot of the cannabis people, including Craig Cecil. And I just want to thank everyone. Amberly, do you think that you were able to fix your audio? Did you? I know that we said, I don't know if you were, because I know you came back on.
Give a try, Amberly. Can you hear us, Amberly? Knock, knock.
Okay, so do we want to do closing remarks then with Jody and Trish and have everybody come on and Trish, I'd like for you to, we always do kind of a roundup. Jeff, I'll let you take it from there. I'm just trying to.
Amberly says it's time to stand up. I'm going to put my glasses on and read what she says. So I'll be Amberly's voice. It's time to stand up to the injustices within our criminal justice system. Join Atlanta activism. Damita Bishop with F.A.I.R organization, St. Louis, September 25th. That's a Friday, 2020, to bring awareness to the mass incarceration epidemic in America. Consists of approximately 12% of the world's population. Can you believe that? So I'll be Amberly's voice. It's time to stand up to the injustices within our criminal justice system. Join Atlanta activism. Damita. Okay, so I had to mute her there. Nonviolent sexual offenders make up 70% of those inmates. Follow your consciousness and be a voice for those behind the walls. We are the people standing in solidarity for freedom, constitutional rights in the entire incarcerated population in the United States. Please share this page with everybody. Join us in the fight, what's right. And the ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones that will. I mean, listen to John Lennon, imagine Steve Jobs, 1955 to 2011, Hebrew 1333, who are in prison. If you are also in prison with them, guest speakers will perform, then they will have a bell to ring for the ceremony. So thank you so much, Amberly, for helping to organize this. Everybody is being seen. I see you, just like the emergency ward. Everything's an emergency right now. And we're blessed to have everybody on today. I'm going to go back to grid view and we'll do our round circle here in closing. Jody, any closing remarks to give hope to the people in the outer world and to the globe, because you're in Portugal right now?
I just say, if you have an incarcerated loved one, speak up. Be a voice for the voiceless. If you get tired, take a day off and then go back to it. But your voice does make a difference. You've got to speak up.
Yep. Today's word.
Thank you, Amy, for teaching me that, because that's where I learned it, that it works.
We all have a voice.
Today's word is end prohibition now. Those are the words today. And Patricia, give us your final wrap up and some beautiful words of hope.
And about beautiful words, I will say that it's 25%. We have 25% of the AIDS in the world, 12, and that the feds do think, this is what I told President, and I would bring up the law or human rights or anything. We're the feds, we do what we want, and it was usually said with a little smirk. But just step into you. Be strong within yourself. Use a lot of I am statements, and be an advocate for pot. People think that, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. And Amy knows on Facebook, I'm a very, very, very big advocate for pot and what I have seen it do. So just be strong. Light dispels darkness. Just be the light.
You're a living testament to that.
Thank you so much, Trish, for all your endurance and for stewarding those beautiful children that you brought into this world. And we're all teachers, and mostly children teach us too. So bless you.
Oh, yes.
Bless you. Hemp hooray. And and how about Ms. Amy? What do you got to say to wrap us up here?
I think we all really need to pray. I believe in the power of prayer. I've seen it personally in my own life and other people's life, how you may go through a period where you feel, I certainly did in prison for 9 years, where I was just like, God, can you even hear me? I mean, can you send me a sign? I used to pray for signs. I would actually get signs. One of them was a dream. And I didn't understand it in there. And it had to do with cannabis, because I wasn't a cannabis person. I was in there for MDMA, never really was a big cannabis person. I'm not going to go into the details of my dream, but it was a spiritual dream. And cannabis was all around me. Now I seem to understand why I had that dream, but because there was a message in there. But all of a sudden, it almost seems like you never know when you're going to be tested and when you're going to pass that test. It may be somebody coming to you asking you for help, and if you say no, maybe God just wants you to prove that you are willing to help others. Because I've said to many people in prison, why would God help you if you won't help others? So you step up, help others, be kind. If you can write a letter, or if you have the ability to help somebody with something they're challenged with, do so, and it will come back to you. And all of a sudden, it seemed like a floodgate of answers to my prayers all of a sudden started happening. A chain event happened. And the next thing I knew, I received clemency from President Clinton. I was out. That was 20 years ago. And here I am doing my advocacy. And just don't give up. Even if you think you're not making progress, I promise you, you are accruing good karma all the time if you will do good for others. And you are going to be rewarded. It may not seem like it, but don't give up.
So Amy's talking about the law of attraction also, everybody. Be careful who you hang out with. So everybody, the word for today is end prohibition now. I've got the little Hebrew guy there, on my page there. Let me get me big so you can see all my bling. And I want to tell you a little bit about the Phoenix Will Rise all day from 11 to 11 p.m. We're going to be raising money for my 3 friends who lost their homes, their $1 million recording studios in the Santa Cruz fires last week. And so we're going to raise money. We're going for $50,000 and instruments and electronics to help them rebuild their world. They're medicine people, and they're advocates of 420 also, their tribe. And so check in with me on my living room tapes. That's another portal. And IBM.TV is going to be streaming that also globally for the full 11 hours. So we're really blessed with IBM TV. Thank you so much, IBM. And my back office producer is Nugent. And we're so happy that you're working with us today on the back end. And end prohibition now is, we don't want that to be old. We want it to be now. So the new word for new is now. So put your now shoes on instead of new shoes. Put your now shoes on. Get walking. Wear more hemp. Stomp out the dirty cotton industry, because that's getting poisons in the earth, in our food chain, and all that stuff. We heard about the bad water. We heard about fluoride. We heard about vaccines. So just be aware. And we even had a story today about chemo, so everybody just be aware of what you're doing and slow down and speed up. That's all I got to say. Nugent, roll our final. And thank you, everybody. Hemp hooray, everyone give me, hang on. I'm gonna do this. Everyone give me 3 and for weed, and 1, 2, 3. There we go. Okay, got it. Okay, thank you, Nugent.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Jeff.
We're gonna roll our outro now, everybody. So stay with us for our outro. Here we go.
Oh, pirates, yes, they rabbi.
Welcome to Weed Wednesdays, produced by International Broadcast Media, better known as IBM.TV. I'm your host, Jeff Eichen, human rights advocate and social activist fighting for government deregulation of weed and the release of all nonviolent criminals incarcerated for possession of marijuana. Moving violations, parking tickets, IRS debt, etc. Here on WEEDsday, we keep the public informed about all things weed related, including festivals and legislation surrounding regulating the growth of hemp. Today, my guests are
There's something happening here.
Tommy Chong for Lifers. Madness.
There's something happening